morning, it's Meredith from Kitchen to Table, and today I'm going to show you how to make a rough puff pastry, and it's what I use to make a rustic savoury tart. Also it can be used to make a rustic fruit tart, and it's just a great skill to have in your repertoire. It is so easy to make. I use a food processor, which does make the job easier, but of course you can also do it by hand just by rubbing in the butter into the flour with your fingers. I know a lot of people steer away from pastry, and there's really no need to, because it is really easy, and you just need a few ingredients: flour, butter, some salt and water, and you can make a delicious homemade pastry, which is so satisfying. Okay, let's get started. So I have my ingredients ready. I've got 125 grams of really cold butter, so I actually have chopped that up and I've had it in the freezer for a little while so it's nice and cold. I've also got some plain flour, so 100 grams of plain white flour. For some interesting texture, I'm adding 85 grams of wholemeal or a spelt flour. We've got some salt just to season it. I've got a little bit of vinegar, which just helps to give you a more flaky, tender crumb. And I've got 1/3 of a cup of chilled water. Once again, I've popped that in the freezer just so that it is super cold. If you want to go a little bit further, you can also put the bowl of your food processor and the blade in the fridge as well, so that everything is super chilled. So that's basically your best friend with pastry, is everything nice and cold, so that the butter sort of stays intact. And when it goes into the oven and heats up, it creates little steam pockets, which lift the pastry and give you that lovely flaky texture. So first of all, I'm going to go in with the flours. So that's the plain flour. This one is the spelt flour. I'm going to pop my seasoning in there as well, so just a pinch or two of salt. I'm just going to give this a whiz just quickly, just to combine those two ingredients. Okay, that's all it needs to do. Okay, so now I'm going to add in my butter, and we're just going to pulse this in until I can still see streaks of butter in the flour. So all of those in. Okay, so pop that on, and I'm just going to use this pulse function, and we'll do that a few times until I can still see bits of butter. Okay, I'm going to show you this now. So you can see in here, there's still chunks of butter in the flour. So we'll stop the pulsing at this point, pop that back on. Now I'm going to add in the chilled water and the vinegar. So just pour that around, and in with the vinegar as well. And I'm just going to pulse this until it forms little balls, like little marbles, and then we'll bring it out onto the bench and just pull it together. So you can see now that it's formed like little balls in the food processor. When I hold it here, if I pinch it together, it sticks together. So that tells me it's ready to go, but there are still nice big chunks of butter in there, which is what we're looking for. So I'm going to just basically bring that together for us. Just use your hands to just gently press that mixture together and flatten it into a round disc. Just press it into a nice flat round so that when we go to roll it out, it's already in that round shape. And by leaving it not too thick, so just flatten it into a flatter disc rather than a big round ball, it just makes it easier to begin your rolling. So that's our flaky pastry. Couldn't be easier. Just takes a little bit of practice and a little bit of confidence, and you'll be on your way to your own homemade pastry. Once your pastry is brought together like this, just pop it in, wrap it or pop it into a plastic container and let it rest in the fridge for half an hour or so. So that's just really important, just to let everything chill back down, for the gluten to relax so that your pastry doesn't shrink when it cooks, and also just makes it a lot easier to handle when your pastry's cold. It means. Okay, so the dough's had 30 minutes to rest in the fridge, and so now it's ready to roll out. I've got ready here, because I'm making a round rustic tart, I've got a round tray. I've just lined it with a little bit of baking paper just so It's nice and easy to handle after it's cooked. I can just slide it then off the tray onto a cooling rack, so that's the reason I use the baking paper. There's probably plenty of butter in the pastry that it wouldn't stick anyway, but it's just an extra layer of assurance after you've gone to the trouble of making everything yourself. So just dust your bench with some flour just so it doesn't stick, and also give a little bit of sprinkle on the top, and just also give your pin a bit of flour. I like these little ones that roll like this. It does a lot of the work for you, so it's just nice and easy. So just start in the center of the dough and start to push it out from the center to the edges. Give it a little quarter turn every couple of rolls, and this will just help it stay in a nice round shape. And so just every so often too, you just want to make sure that the bench, it's not sticking to the bench, so just apply a little bit of extra flour underneath, and just continue on like this until you've got a circle about 35 centimeters or so for this particular tart. But you can roll out half that size pastry, you can make little individual tarts. It's completely up to you what you do. This pastry will also freeze really well, so if you want to make a couple of batches of it while you've got the food processor out, that's a great idea too. And just continue out here like this. It doesn't matter too much about the ragged edges. You'll either trim those off, but in this rustic tart, those edges create really crispy little parts of the pastry, which is really yummy. So just continue rolling out. So we're nearly there now. I've got a nice thickness, probably just a centimetre or so. And what I'm going to do with this tart is fill it with a lovely ricotta filling and some roasted vegetables, some spinach, and make a savoury tart. But my other idea too was to use this for a fruit tart, so I might cook off some apples with a little bit of cinnamon and sugar, and I could just layer those on the inside here, fold the edges up, and I've got a beautiful homemade apple tart. So lots of uses for it. And this particular recipe, because I've left the butter chunks quite good size in there, this gets really flaky and delicious. So to get it onto the tray, I just plop my pin on one end, roll it over itself, and just carefully pick it up, bring the tray over, and then just unfurl it onto the tray. Okay, so this is going to overhang a wee bit, but once I pop my filling in there, I've got some lovely edges to fold over. So it's as easy as that, and I wish you all the best on your pastry making ventures as well. Thank you.